Hey everybody, tonight again we have with us Mark Collingsworth to talk about the new wave of IRS agents waiting to pounce on you, the working and middle class little guy. According to mainstream media, the liberal media, that's a total exaggeration, fear tactics by Republicans. They're actually going to be going after the big guys and corporations and partnerships, according to among the reports from CNBC, saying that this is all an exaggeration, nothing to worry about, folks. Mark, you're the financial expert. Is there much to worry about?
There's a lot to worry about, Larry, because first of all, the tax revenues over, even though the IRS has taken massive budget cuts over the last decade, tax collections actually gone up. So the question here is if the IRS is going to get all this additional money because they're saying they're struggling so much, and they don't show a huge profit, a huge return on that investment back, then that funding is going to get taken away. So if you're back in the corner and you have to show a lot of money being made on tax collection, do you want to go after these billionaires that have an army of tax attorneys, an army of CPAs, and extremely complex structures? These complex structures they talk about, it takes almost a year just to audit one of them because they're so complex. That's option one. Or do you go ahead and just send a letter out to the mom and pop people saying, "Hey, you owe $300 additional dollars. Please pay it." You send out $300 letters. You just have to do that, 10, 20,000 times, and you start racking in some major bucks.
Well, but again, they're also saying that there's not going to be 87,000 auditors. A lot of them are going to be IT experts and phone answerers and just making the IRS more efficient. So again, the concerns that are being fed to the masses by those nasty Republicans are exaggerated.
Well, that's kind of funny. Also, they say these IT professionals. Why are those IT professionals coming in? So they can basically design computer programs that scrutinize tax returns even more to really stick it to a person. It's very easy for $2 or $3 to slip through a tax return and the IRS not catch it. Improve your computer program with better IT people, it starts catching that $2 or $3, and that mom and pop starts paying an extra $2 or $3 in taxes.
Yeah, well, it, along with this new funding and the new agents, or at least workers with the IRS, are they also being provided with new tools to go after the bigger guys?
Oh, they are revamping their entire computer system currently. The computer software they use right now is called Fortran, which is actually people stopped using Fortran back in the 1970s. You may also have noticed that when you hear about all these computer hacks all around the world, you never hear about the IRS getting hacked. Why? Because nobody understands Fortran. There's only probably a dozen people that still program in Fortran these days. So they're going to modernize that to get more detailed on searching through to create a larger and bigger database to basically be big brother on tax returns.
Yeah, it's also the same report by CNBC also says, surprisingly, that between 2010 and 19, audit rates for individuals dropped from 0.9% to 0.25%. These rates vary by income levels, with those making less than $25,000 and those with incomes above $200,000 receiving higher than average scrutiny in recent years. So right there, they're saying that those making less than $25,000, I mean, that's the little guy. That's barely a subsistence level, and they're going to be going after them.
Well, this is also, yeah, they're going to go after the little guy for the simple reason, believe it or not, the little guy probably is the guy that probably has the highest probability of actually cheating on his tax returns illegally. Whereas the big guys, they may cheat on their taxes, but they're doing it completely legal. I mean, come on. Amazon makes what, $100 billion and pays no income taxes, and the IRS isn't going after them. I mean, come on. That $100 billion they made and didn't pay taxes on it, they used legal loopholes to bypass that. The IRS knows it. Why does the IRS want to take on their own rules and regulations when people like Amazon are going to sit there and go, "Hey, we followed the rules that you wrote," and the IRS is going to waste all this time and energy losing money going after someone like Amazon, and their own rules and regulations are going to kill them. Whereas the little guy's going to sit here and go, "Oh, hey, I gave $500 to charity last year. I need to write that off. Oh, you didn't give $500 to charity. That's where the IRS is going to go after them.
Is there any indication also that they'll be targeting people by political affiliation? I mean, some of
Oh,
that has happened in the past.
oh, most definitely. I completely believe that, and it happens on both sides of the table. Republicans do it, Democrats do it. With the IRS funding, yeah, they're gonna target political people, just like they did back here with Lois Lerner when they went after all these conservative organizations and wouldn't approve their nonprofit tax status.
All right, now, Mark, first order of business for the Republicans, they say, is to, in effect, defund the IRS to prevent that 87,000 new hires from occurring. Now, how are they actually going to do that?
Well, the actual budget, the big boost, the 87,000 is actually coming from the Inflation Reduction Act that they passed last year. And that allocates, I think, something like $80 billion to the IRS over the next 10 years. So that's roughly $8 billion a year. Well, the IRS budget is somewhere around $13 billion per year. So the $8 billion under the Inflation Act, they're going to get that no matter what, because that's actually a law. So the House of Representatives cannot do anything with that. 13 billion that the IRS gets every year that's not part of a law or part of a bill. The House of Representatives has full intentions of going after that 13 billion. So technically they could say, we're not going to give you any of the 13 billion. You'll just have to live off of the $8 billion you're getting from the Inflation Reduction Act.
So therefore, there will be less money to spend for a full 87,000 hires.
Correct. There's two sources of income that the IRS is getting. One is from the law that was passed, and one is from the yearly budget that comes out every year. The House of Representatives can't do anything about the $8 billion that they're going to get under a law that's passed. They can't override that. But the 13 billion, the House of Representatives can target that like crazy all day long.
All right, now the Republicans, the new majority in the House, although it's a slim majority, say they're also going to prevent future federal tax increases generally. Can they do that?
Yes and no. So any bill that they originate in the House has to, of course, go to the Senate to get passed as well. So the Senate, as long as it's in Democratic hands, they can basically shoot that bill down.
So therefore, they could put the brakes on at least to some extent.
With the House being controlled, they can basically put Congress in gridlock for the next at least the next 2 years. That nothing will get done or no laws.
And more generally speaking, as we wrap this up, how do you think this is going to play out? I mean, it's a very slim majority in the House with the Republicans. The Senate is still Democrat. Warring factions and more gridlock, or will the Republicans be able to shake loose some of the things they want to do and reform some of the things they want to reform?
Well, unfortunately, when you have majorities that are this slim, you always see a whole lot of pork because you've got what 10 people that you basically control the House of Representatives now. You're going to have to cut a whole lot of deals and a whole lot of pork for those 10 people to get on. I mean, look at McCarthy. He had 15 failed votes, and then on the 16th vote actually won it because he had to cut deal after deal after deal to get there. And yeah, they may cut IRS funding, but there's going to be somebody getting their hands patted somewhere down the road to cast that vote.
All right. So over the next 2 years, how will the political wars or the political machinations and maneuvers, how will that generally affect Wall Street?
Well, Wall Street actually likes it being a gridlock. The thing that Wall Street hates so much is when somebody controls when one party controls all three groups of Congress, they hate that. As long as one party controls one branch and the other two is controlled by somebody else, they can put it in gridlock. I mean, last year the Democrats controlled all three branches, and the stock market was down almost 20%. Wall Street doesn't like that. Put that one branch in there. I think you'll have a better year this year once the Republicans get in office. And that's another interesting thing. The stock market normally performs better when the House of Representatives is under GOP control. And I think that's just because they are much more savvy business people on how to allocate capital to the economy.
Okay, well, Mark Collingsworth of Vere Global Wealth Management, thanks for the update, and we'll see how this progresses as we go along in this new year with a new majority in the House of Representatives. Mark, thanks for being with us.
Thank you very much.